Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheilla, and I have this week's Christmas story for you. I promised you Christmas stories for the next several weeks. Well, our Christmas story today is called 15 for Christmas. Well, Linnie, she was busy making lunch for her and her husband, and she picked up the little serving bowl with that little tiny mound of potatoes in it. And she disgustedly looked at it. Cooking for two was no fun at all. Then she got a happier thought. Christmas was almost here. Then she went over and she looked in her cupboard. She had a big cupboard that was full of all the jars of the food that she canned every summer. Well, part of those jars were great big jars. They were half-gallon size jars. I don't know that they even make those size jars anymore. But Linnie, she looked at them and she thought, will we ever eat those great big jars of food? And then she did think again of Christmas, and she thought, well, sure, Christmas is coming. We'll need all that food. Just about then, the phone rang. And she picked up the phone and she said, hello. And on the other end, there was a voice that said, hi, Mom. And she went, Jen, I was just thinking about Christmas and you guys coming. I'm so excited. Well, she kept talking about how excited she was and all the stuff they were going to do. And then Jen interrupted her and she said, Mom, Jean and Betsy, they both have the measles. We can't come. And Mom said, oh no, I'm so sorry, so very, very sorry. Jen said, I know you're sorry, but we're even sorrier than you are. We love coming home for Christmas. Oh well, I'll call you in the next day or two and let you know how the girls are doing. And she hung up. There was a tear running down Linnie's face. She thought, nobody for Christmas. She thought about the fact that there was always, for years, there'd been 15 for Christmas. All their children and their grandchildren around the table. It was the perfect amount for a large turkey. And then she thought, two people won't need a turkey. She said, I'm going to have to talk to Bill about it. So when they sat down to eat that meal that she had made, she told Bill, the girls have measles and Jen can't come now. Bill, he looked at Linnie. He came around the table and he put his arm around her and he said, I'm sorry, honey, but I can't wait for your turkey dinner and dressing. It's delicious. And she said, I'm not going to cook a turkey, Bill. There's no one to eat it. And Bill said, all right. And then Linnie said, we have to go out. Go out? Bill said. They never went out. To the hotel? She said, yes, to the hotel. Bill, he said, all right, Linnie, if that's what you want, We can go to the hotel. But she could just read the disappointment in his face. He was always kind to do what she wanted. She thought, I don't know. So the next morning, she had thought about it a lot that night. And when he went to leave to go to the mill, to his job, she said, Bill, just a minute. She went over and she said, would you stop at the market and get a chicken, a small chicken, and I'll cook for Christmas dinner? He looked at her and he said, honey, are you sure? And the look on his face said it all. Well, after he left, she thought, just two of us in all of our married life. This will be the first Christmas that there's just two of us. She thought about it a little while longer. That's the way it had to be. Christmas was a family holiday. When she had said there'll be just two of us to Bill, he had said, you know, we could invite some of our friends if there's just two of them, too, that they'd be home alone and be lonely. What do you say? Well, Linnie had said, nope, Christmas is a family holiday. I just can't do it, Bill. I can't do it. So he'd gone off to work, stopped at the market on his way, and ordered that small chicken for the two of them. That afternoon, Linnie was supposed to go to the guild meeting at the church. And she thought, oh, there's going to be a potluck. So she immediately started getting ingredients out of the cupboard to make a cake to take with her. Well, when she got there, she set her cake down in the vestibule of the church and went over to hang up her coat. And then she heard a voice behind her that said, hello, Mrs. Gordon. And she turned around and looked, and it was Mrs. Cox. And she said, well, hello, Mrs. Cox. I haven't seen you in forever. Where have you been? And Mrs. Cox, she kind of looked sad. She said, I've been home. It's my arthritis. And she held up her hands. Her hands were all gnarly and fingers were crooked, and there was big arthritic bumps on them. She said, I couldn't even cook my meatloaf. I had to have my husband Henry do it. And he said, we have to go to the hotel for Christmas. We don't have any kids coming this year. And Linnie, she thought to herself, they could come to our house. There's just two of us, too. But then she thought to herself, no, it's Christmas and Christmas is a family holiday. We're not going to have other people. She didn't say that out loud. That would have been rude. Well, they went into the guild. And when it was all over, she saw Mrs. Cox trying to pick up the casserole that her meatloaf had been in. And her fingers were so stiff. You could tell just picking it up hurt her. And Linnie, she thought to herself, she can't even cook anymore. She went over and she put her arm around Mrs. Cox and she said, Bill and I are home alone. The first time since we were married this year. None of the kids can come home. You and Henry can come over and join us for Christmas. And Mrs. Cox's face lit up And she went, "Oh, thank you." And she went on her way with her little casserole dish. Then she thought about, oh, so Bill got home, she said. "Bill, would you call the market and order a big chicken instead of the little one? The Coxes are coming for lunch." And Bill looked really pleased. He said, "That's wonderful." So Bill made the phone call to the market for them to save them a big chicken. Well, the next day in the mail, there was a letter that came, and it was from Joe, Linnie and Bill's youngest son. He was away at college and couldn't come home for Christmas. But his letter said, "Mom, I'm going to be there for Christmas, even though I'm 2,000 miles away. And you can save the drumstick from the turkey for me. When Christmas is over, you can give what's left of it to my dog there at home, Shep." And then he said, "And Mom, guess what? The neatest thing happened. One of the families at the church here at the college invited me home for Christmas dinner. Isn't that neat, Mom? You know, the cafeteria food isn't that bad, but it's nothing like home-cooked food, Mom. I'm gonna be the most grateful Christmas guest they've ever had." Lenny, she thought of something. She set Joe's letter down and she went, "Uh-oh." She remembered that several weekends before at church, the pastor had got up and said, "There's a whole group of young guys, young boys really, at the Air Force Base that can't go home for Christmas. I thought it would be nice if some of us would have them. Some of them, you know, one to one place and one to another, or a couple, whatever you'd like." And Lenny, she thought, that's nice. But then she thought, it's Christmas. It's a family holiday. And so she'd left the church without telling the pastor anything. And now she thought, some lady I've never even met there at the college is taking care of my son on Christmas so he's not alone. What was I thinking of? So she quickly ran over and she got on the telephone and she said, "Pastor, are there any of those boys from the air base that still don't have a place to go?" And she waited and the pastor said, "You know, Lenny, the response wasn't good like I expected it to be." And she said, "You still have one that needs a place to go?" He said, "Still have one? I have 5. And Lenny's eyes, of course, the pastor couldn't see. Her eyes got big. She thought, 5 boys? And then she shook her head. She said, "Send them over on Christmas." She hung up the phone and then she thought, oh, that big chicken won't be enough. So she called the market and said, "Mr. Larson, could you change my order from that big chicken to a small turkey, please?" And he said, "Okay." He didn't say any more. So she thought, And she got busy cleaning in her house. Well, that evening, her husband didn't come home when he generally did. It was really late and she was getting worried. She wondered, I wonder what's happened. Well, when he got home, he didn't have the happy, smiley face that he always had on. He was sad looking and solemn. And Linnie ran up to him and she said, "Bill, honey, what is it?" And Bill said, "Remember some time ago I told you about the new young guy named Slim Taylor? Him and his family had moved here and he's working at the mill. Well, right before quitting time, he got hurt really, really bad at the mill. They took him by ambulance to the hospital, and the doctor says that he's going to have to be there for a long, long, long time." And Linnie, his wife, came to the hospital. I've never seen a lady so upset. The doctor asked Art and I if we'd take her home. He said that there was nothing she could do there. But, we waited for a while to try to help calm her down. It was terrible. I felt so sorry for her. She's got 5 kids at home, Linnie. I almost invited them home for Christmas. And Linnie's eyes got big. 5 children and a lady I've never even met before for Christmas? And then she thought, it's a family holiday. Well, all night that night, she couldn't sleep. All she kept thinking about was that lady and her 5 little children and the husband in the hospital. When Bill was getting ready to leave the next morning, she stopped him and she said, "Bill, I couldn't sleep all night last night thinking about that man that was injured in the family and 5 children. Go invite them for Christmas." Bill went over and he gave Linnie the biggest hug. And you know what he said? "Linnie, you just can't help being a good woman, can you? In spite of yourself." And he laughed. And Bill, "Oh, nothing, I'll take care of it." And she sent him on his way. She went over and she picked up the phone again. The poor man at the market. She dialed his number and she said, "Oh, Mr. Larson, this is Linnie again." And he said, "You want to change your order again?" Now he'd already changed it from 1 little chicken to 1 big hen to a small turkey. And she said, I need a big turkey. Is there any way I can change it to a big turkey?" And Mr. Larson, he kind of laughed. He said, "I happen to have just 1 big turkey left. And if you want to change your order again, I'm going to have to go out and find an ostrich for you." Well, Linnie, she laughed. She said, "A big turkey will do. We have 15 coming." And when she hung up, she thought, 15. That's what we always have for Christmas when our family comes home. 15. And then she thought, this was the way Christmas was meant to be. Boys and girls, this is a story that I should be telling to myself. God does want us to share and share the best things. Thank you, boys and girls. I will see you next week. Bye-bye now.